Today, we will be showing you how to install 5V metal roofing for a traditional style roof. You can start with the drip edge assembly. Start by locating the drip edge and aligning it with the edge of the fascia board. Cut the drip edge on an angle at the end of the roof and align it with the corner. Install the drip edge to the roof using 3/4 inch stainless steel screws approximately every 16 inches. Depending on the size of your pavilion, there will be more than one piece. Measure the space from the end of the drip edge to the edge of the roof. Then, using that measurement, mark a line on another piece and cut at that line. Open the hemmed part slightly to overlap the previous piece. Align the two pieces and attach to the roof using 3/4 inch stainless steel screws like you did before. Measure and mark at 1/4 inch from the edge of the drip edge to know where to snap a line. Snap a line all the way across the drip edge at the bottom in order to keep the metal straight and properly squared on the roof. Repeat these steps for all 4 sides of the structure. You can now move on to the 5V metal assembly. Locate the metal panels and note the one side is meant for overlapping on the other. Place the first panel on the roof and align it with the line you made at the bottom and corner of the hip. Install them with painted hex screws at the tops and bottoms of each panel as shown. Continue this process all the way across the roof. Measure and mark off every 2 feet up the metal panels and snap a line across the roof at your marks. Drill into the overlapped side of each panel on the lines you made with painted hex screws. Continue this process until you complete one side of the roof. Once you have, you can repeat this process for the remaining sides of the roof. You can now move on to the hip and ridge cap assembly. Locate the hip caps and the ridge cap. Begin by placing the adhesive weather stripping on the hips. Be sure to place 2 runs of the adhesive weather stripping on each hip, 1 per side. Continue this process for all 4 hips. Slide the hip cap over the corner of the metal roof and ensure the hip cap is firmly against the drip edge. Fasten the hip cap to the rib of the metal roof panels below with painted hex screws on both sides of the hip. Mark and cut the first piece of capping at the center of the opposite hip and the ridge. Using a tin snips, cut the extra hip cap at the top of the pavilion. Finish fastening the hip cap through the rib of the metal panels below with painted hex screws on both sides of the hip. Install the hip cap on the remaining sides as shown in the previous steps. Mark and cut the second piece of the hip capping to look aesthetically pleasing while also keeping it watertight. Once cut, install the rest of the hex screws as needed. Place the ridge cap on top of the ridge and align it with the edge of the hip capping on one of the sides. Fasten that end with 1 hex screw on both sides into the ribs of the roof panels below. Mark and cut the end of the ridge capping as needed to finish off the hip and ridge cap connection. Repeat this process on the other side and attach the rest of the ridge capping to the ribs below to finish your installation.